Welcome to our lecture on being audience-centered. So we'll begin by talking about the audience analysis and its purpose. So its purpose is not for a study, which may be something that you're familiar with doing. So how many of you have filled out a survey recently? A lot of you have. So was this for a study or for another class? Anybody can answer? Or where?
Study for school.
Oh, okay, so the school has some surveys out. One of them was for a study. Okay, and the ones for the school are for a study as well, because they're looking for trends in order to find out, let's say, blind spots that they may have on some of the things we're doing. So they may be asking about how satisfied you are with tutoring services or being accessible to your instructors. So those are some things that they're doing. And that is actually to make some changes, but it is not to actually present something like this is. So that's the difference between an audience analysis and the studies that you're a part of. And that's going to mean that if somebody doesn't fill something out right on your survey, you still include the other answers. Or if you know that they answered it in the wrong way, because maybe your wording was a little off, and you can see that it seemed a little bit confusing, you're still using everything else that that person has delivered to you. So that it's still useful. Where in a study, you throw it out, otherwise it's not useful. In order for something like this to be a study, we probably need more people, and it'd have to be more in-depth. So we're not creating a methodology on this, we're just finding out what we think about your topics. That's it. So we are going to look at audience dispositions first and see what that looks like. For an audience disposition, that's whether they like or they don't like, or even if they care about your topic. So favorable, unfavorable, or neutral. If you think about the topics that we know in our lives that you can have a position on, you probably don't, there's probably a lot of things where you're not even way out on the favorable or way out on the unfavorable. It's more like a continuum. I'm kind of for it, but I'm not crazy for it. I'm not going to go out and protest something like this. So that would be an example. The other type of audience member would be neutral. And they can go in two different ways. An audience member just may not even care about your topic. So if that's the case, it's just like, I don't have time to even think about something like this. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't affect my life at all. And that's when you will see relevance is not a part of this. And so as you're constructing your persuasive arguments, and Chris, you may find that with yours. Why would it matter to me? It's not going to be my lifetime. That would be an example of where you need to show relevance to the class. This is important to you because of this, and so you need to spend a little bit more time in your persuasive arguments, just demonstrating this is why you should care about it. I know you haven't thought about this before, but let's examine this again. And then you could have a person that's neutral, that's highly knowledgeable about the topic, but they just haven't made a decision, and you will approach that differently as well. So somebody that is highly knowledgeable about the topic, you don't need to go in about the relevance. You just need to push them in one way or the other. So you need to look at the arguments that they do know, and then you're going to work to maybe see the flaws in the arguments that they may see there that could be putting them in that neutral category. So you have to examine this, and that's why it's important for you to create these questions in a way so you can pull that information out. Okay, so now that we know that we're looking at the audience's disposition, how many of you think you know where the audience might stand on your topics? I just want you to think about that for a moment, because it might be different when you see the audience analysis. So just make some judgments, and And we need to make sure that you write your questions in a way that aren't biased, but when you get that information back, I just want to know if it was the same or if it was different than what you got. Let's take a look at the different types of audiences, because that can help us with our approach. So 2 different types of audiences. This is not highly philosophical. Basically, it means if you're a captive audience, you have to be here. And if you're a voluntary audience, you don't have to be here. So captive audiences mean that there's a reason that you'd have some kind of repercussion if you're not here. Being at work, having to go to a meeting, that is, you have to be there. Now, sure, maybe you can, ditch the meeting, but you might get into trouble with your boss. Or maybe you can get away with it sometimes, but you eventually have to go to these captive meetings. Voluntary, okay, those type of strings aren't attached. So we're not going to lose our job, we're not going to fail a class, we're not going to have points docked from us, we're not going to feel bad.
Most times aren't voluntary, as they actually, I guess, of course, they want to be there, so they're naturally interested in the subject.
That can still fall under captive. So, and I'll give you some different perspectives on this. So, like in this class here, you are a captive audience. You cannot get through your degree unless you take a class like this. If you don't take this class, you're going to have to take another class like this. Okay, if you miss class, you're not going to earn points. Okay, there are consequences that are involved if you're not here. It's like your job. But let's say that you come in here and you really like it here. You really like the class and you want to be here. So what you will see is that just because you're a captive audience doesn't mean you have an unfavorable disposition. So you could actually be favorable, or maybe you don't care, but it's where your emotions will lay in general as a group. So let's get some examples of, I had a couple for captive, but when it's voluntary, absolutely no strings attached. What do we go to?
Rallies.
Rallies. Good, that's a good example. Okay. What else? We just want to know.
Since the hospital has a lot of them.
Games. And what were you going to say?
Where would incentivized audience be under that?
That's a good question. You could look at internal motivation, intrinsic motivation, or external. So we could look at more intrinsic here. You've had some lectures on this, I can tell.
Incentivized?
Incentivized?
Incentivized,
Like, what do you get out of this?
Okay.
yeah.
What was the other example you were talking about?
I said the hospital always has a bunch of different types of speeches going on.
Okay. Is that at work?
At Bryan.
Okay.
Hospital.
And then maybe free to the public.
Mm-hmm.
Concerts.
Really good.
Church.
Church
That's
can go
captive.
either way. Here.
Just
If you're
watch
a
that
kid,
70s show.
Your family may be telling you have to go.
There's an episode on that 70s show where the mom was just like, Kitty was going crazy that her kids didn't want to go to church and they're all burning to hell if they don't. Yeah, it was.
I remember that episode.
So with that example, would that be captive or voluntary?
It was totally captive. But the dad didn't have to go.
The benefits of being an adult. All right, so here we can see the differences. Now let's take a look at what this means and how our emotions are expressed. Okay, you go to a rally. I'm going to use your example. Maybe it's a political rally, and you really don't like what's going on there.
You can leave.
No strings are attached. What can happen with your emotions? What's okay to happen with your emotions?
Get angry and leave.
You can get angry and leave. Can you be very expressive about this?
technically, if you don't.
I mean, within the law, if you're in trouble with it, or you're at that concert, and your favorite song plays, how far can we go with our emotions with something like that?
As long as the bouncers don't come and grab you.
Yeah, okay, so within reason, so you can jump, you can scream, you can yell.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Too though.
and, you know, and so you could do that, you could do a lot when you are in a when you're a voluntary audience and not really get into trouble. Now, there is a point, you're right, there is a point where you're gonna get into trouble. You know, if you get to a fight with somebody, if you start breaking the law, then there's gonna be some consequences, but you can be pretty expressive and be okay. Captive audience, you're sitting here in the classroom. Okay, how much are your emotions capped? You get really excited about something. If you get really mad at something, how much are your emotions capped?
Quite a bit.
Yeah, quite a bit. Why? Why are they so capped?
It's not socially acceptable.
Because of the consequences that are. Yeah, it's not socially acceptable, and it is more socially acceptable when you're in when you are a voluntary audience. You can expect that. So if you are a presenter and it's at a rally and they really like you, you may have a hard time getting them to calm down. You know, they need to stop clapping so I can get to my point. You know, or maybe they're very angry, and you may have a hard time calming them down. So you have to approach that differently. Before you walk into any situation where you're delivering a presentation, find out if they're a captive audience or a voluntary audience. Do they have to be here? Or are they here because they want to be here? And that doesn't mean that they're going to be one of these. You know, you can't just assume if they're captive, they don't want to be here. But that will tell you a little bit more about the audience and how to approach them. So for this class, what do we know about how our emotions will be expressed for your topics?
Captive and encouragement.
So it's going to be pretty even keel. That means you need to pay close attention to even, let's say, you know, micro expressions, because that will give you an idea of how your audience really feels about the topic. So you need to be a lot more aware on that. Okay, now that we've talked about the audience's disposition and captive and voluntary audience members, how we collect information from an audience, we can do this already informally. So if we look at each other, if we observe each other, what do we already know about this class that can help us with this next project? So just look at your neighbor. What do we know about? What do we know about each other? Do we have common characteristics? Are we different in any way?
Yeah, everything's different.
Okay, in what way? Give me some examples.
Age, gender,
Okay.
parent versus not parent.
Okay, does that make a difference in the way how our views are shaped?
Yes.
Okay, so that's just by observing each other, we can pick up on these things. Okay, does that mean I need to approach my audience differently? Absolutely. I need to take those things into consideration. The common thing that you do have in here is you're all college students. You're all adults. A lot of you are working. And that says something about you as a class. So if I'm coming in here for the first time, what do I already know about this class?
That we're all students.
That you're all students. What does that mean about you as a person?
Trying to better our careers.
Okay, that's really important for somebody like me to know. Okay, so you have that intrinsic motivation, something that Chris was referring to when he was looking at this over here. So you can be a captive audience with intrinsic motivation, because I mean you're paying us to put you through an education, and this isn't easy. This is very difficult what you're doing. So it says a lot about you just being here. Okay, Anything else we can observe about each other?
Get to know each other.
Just informal conversations, other things you want to just scan and see who's sitting next to each other. If you're sitting closer to each other, you're probably friends. So those are things that will change the dynamics, except you two. You two aren't friends.
I can't stand this guy.
It was the only chair, she just had to sit there.
That happens in some classes.
He just happens to be in those classes and you have to sit next to him. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's get into the actual questions. For your assignment, you're going to write 1 demographic question and 5 psychological questions. So we'll start with the demographics. And you've done surveys. Most of you have done a survey recently. What is a demographic question?
The idea of which way you're trying to go.
No.
What they may or may not know about the topic you're gonna try and touch on.
That would be psychological. So I'm going to put that on the board as a filler.
Demographic would be like male, female.
Oh,
What
who
we're just
your
talking about.
audience is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so gender. Give me some other examples. Okay, and you were saying some things earlier before if you had kids. So that would be something, marital status,
Race,
race, ethnicity.
Cultural
Religion.
background.
Say that again.
Cultural background.
Cultural background. We'll put that right here. So religion is one also. Sexual orientation would be another one.
So would
Income.
you want it to relate to your speech? Like, if mine is on like why pit bulls aren't a vicious breed, would it be okay to be like, do you own a dog?
That would be a psychological. So let me give you some insights as to why we ask a demographic question. So, because a demographic question is not about the topic, but its intent is to gather information, background information, so that we can understand or try to understand where you're coming from.
Where the audience thing is coming from.
Mhm.
The statistic thing.
Right. So for your question, you may ask, do you have children? Because that would be something that a parent would be more likely to entertain about the pit bull and the reputation that they have. So, but it isn't asking about how you feel about pit bulls. It's just asking so you know where that person is coming from. So marketers do this all the time. They do this in sales, just to try and figure out, you know, who they can best sell to.
90% of men said this.
Exactly, exactly. Does it make a difference whether you're male or female in your views? It absolutely does. Okay, because your experiences shape you differently, shape your perception differently. So let's do this. Let's pretend we're salespeople. And what are we going to sell? Give me a couple of ideas.
cars,
Cars is an idea.
A $250,000 ticket to Mars.
A ticket to Mars.
pills,
Discounted price. And what?
pills, medical pills,
Medicine.
Oh,
meds.
okay. Okay. We could do that. I think, what was your first choice?
Cars.
Yeah.
Cars?
Shoes.
Cars, shoes. Okay, we'll do,
We're
We're
not trying
gonna
to set
use-
up a family
Share
feud type
that.
question.
huh?
We're trying to set up like a family feud type question.
No, we're just gonna change, I just need something where I can change the demographic quite a bit. I think I'm gonna use cars for this example. So, because it can apply to quite a big demographic. So, we are car salespeople. And, our target audience is an 18-year-old male, no children, not married.
Not at 18,
Well, you can though,
only if it's your cousin.
in Arkansas.
Wow, that escalated quickly.
Okay, so this is an 18-year-old male. Let's say income of,
25,000 a year.
yeah, we can do 25.
I need their job.
Yeah.
At 18 years old.
I think 25,000.
Let's make it more like 12,000 a year, that's honest.
I made 25,000 last year. 19.
Well, you might have a better job.
Right?
You're 20?
I was working in prison at 18. My,
Yeah,
my annual income would have been 35.
Y'all got some good
He
jobs at
rents
18 years
and
old. I was working like McDonald's.
3 people in his household, so we can assume he has a couple of roommates. Okay. Sell him a car.
It's 3 with,
It's bright,
Has
it's
two
shiny,
roommates,
it's
3.
fast.
oh, 2 roommates.
It's a Ford
Bam.
Taurus.
No,
Ford
bright,
Taurus
shiny,
says
fast.
Joe.
What kind of car?
Yeah, what kind of a car are we gonna sell him?
Ford Taurus says
Something-
It's like a
Something sporty.
2010 Toyota.
Okay, so give me your reasoning. Why are you saying this?
Because that would be a reasonable price car. Used.
Okay,
He's
why?
18, he's not gonna care about
And it's
reasonable
reliable.
price.
Actually, Honda, they're more reliable.
There's more men die in car accidents than women, so give him something he can't accelerate really fast.
Prius.
A Honda.
No, give him
A
something
Prius.
he can accelerate
Prius.
because
No,
that's
he
what he's
needs
gonna
a-
want.
Right, if you're
2010
looking
Honda,
like
'cause
money
it'll
wise,
last
you're
long.
gonna wanna give him something like
A
that.
Honda Accord.
As a salesman, you
1986.
want to think expensive and non-reliable because it creates more money back towards the shop.
Well, not necessarily
Maybe
less
it's not
bad.
right.
What
Is
from
he
an 18 year
paying
old?
bills
He's
towards
never
it, like
tried to
monthly?
sell an
Not from an
18-year-old.
18-year-old that makes
Let's say he
$18,000.
is.
No.
Okay, then he needs like a
Crashes.
$10,000 Honda from 2010.
Or a Ford Mustang.
Mustang.
Yeah,
We're
Mustang.
doing 17,000
He's
a
an 18-year-old
year.
kid.
It could be used.
Control that thing.
It could be like a
All right,
90s.
you see where you see how we're changing our views and we're trying to get into the mind of an 18-year-old making this much with these type of living arrangements. So we've already adjusted. Now we have a lot of different ideas, but it is based on
Give 'em an
demographics. So let's change this now.
He just
And
needs a
now
car.
we have a 67-year-old female, married.
Chevy
Prius.
Traverse.
Just give her a Prius.
Um,
Oh, not a film for the
2
grandkids,
people
not
in a
That's
household,
the whole point of a
She
Prius.
needs a van.
and she brings home $100,000 a year.
2 children in the household?
No,
No, that's like her and her husband.
No.
Okay, if she makes
that's the annual income.
her and her husband together.
Oh, she's getting a Corvette.
We didn't say she was married, we're just
Why
saying.
is it
I thought
whatever
you
she
said
wants?
she
You
was
said she's
married.
Oh, yes, I did say she was married.
So is that both their income?
Let's say yes.
Only Maserati.
Kids still in the house or not?
Nope.
Nope. Kids.
She needs
getting
a
a nice car.
2012 van.
She doesn't want a van.
No,
She
that's-
don't want grandkids following.
It's gonna be something new.
Steve-up.
I think it's
Probably a
Fiesta.
Maserati. One really nice, expensive car.
Okay, so a nice expensive car, kind of a sporty car, are you thinking?
Yeah.
What's
Cadillac
she thinking behind this?
CTR.
Could be.
It needs to be 4-door. 2 doors are too hard for.
Hopefully she has her
Oh,
own.
It's like a
vehicle.
sedan,
They
like a
just
really
need 4
expensive
doors.
A
sedan.
nice sedan. And it's- so
She's
what's
taking
her
$100,000
Like a new
She's
Buick.
got a license.
Like,
$20 down. Lexus BMW.
That $40,000, $50,000 cars, she would be more than welcome with that with low payments.
That's half
That
her
might be a
income.
little tight that year.
Yeah.
She's making $100,000 a year.
She's making $100,000.
$20 and she's got a Lexus or BMW.
I'd give that kid a $500 car.
Yeah, but with an 18-year-old kid, they're more likely to fail on the payments. So the company would be able to repossess the car and resell it again.
Okay, so you'd actually be willing to try a $50,000 car?
Credit-wise, chances are they have better credit because an 18-year-old doesn't have bad credit, they have no credit.
Yeah.
I'm not 18.
Well,
You see,
Give it to
it just
me.
makes it
I remember when I
different.
had no credit. I still have no credit.
All right, so now your next job is to write
I have no credit.
one demographic
My credit was
question.
like 5 something.
Just come up with a couple of ideas for your topic, but you'll only need one
I
for
think
your
mine's like 6
actual
something now, but it's still not
survey. So go
bad.
ahead and come up with
My
something
sister,
right now.
credit cards,
Like a survey
my
question?
entire family's name.
Yeah, so something that's a demographic, just like we did here.
Shoot, screwed everyone.
Just one demographic question?
Just one.
Can one demographic question cover a base of
Demographic question.
multiple questions? So like, please
Or our
answer
subject matter,
our topic.
gender, age, so on and so forth, or just?
If you want to ask more than one demographic question, you may, but that's not a requirement for the assignments.
Okay.
Are we asking the question due to the subject at hand with the cars or just in general?
To yourself.
Okay.
Yes, getting the background for yourself. It's not about the topic, but it's for them, so you can understand them more. She's done.
And this is about like our topic that we're gonna do, I
This is
think.
regarding the one that you're gonna bring and finish on Wednesday.
So our target, we're trying to target is certain, or just the individual?
It's them. It's only them that we're gonna be serving.
Renting or?
Oh, can you pass that over so you can see what she was approved on? Because that's gonna help her. So the sheet is moving around, and those are the ones that I approved you. Some of you had one choice and you were automatically approved for it.
How should you start the question?
So
Depends on what it is.
due to my
What's your
subject,
age? For example.
would a demographic be someone who versus owning the house versus
Yes.
renting? Is that a demographic?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you own or rent? Okay, it's okay if it doesn't come naturally. Sometimes they come at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wait, are we supposed to be making these questions?
Guess I'm not sure, like,
I'll give you just a little bit of time in between this, but you're not going to have all of them done by the end of this class. It's a homework assignment.
Okay, that's all.
I just, if you had something that came to you during this lecture, then you should write it down. Okay, now some of you have put some ideas down. The next thing we're going to do is explain psychological questions. So this is about your topic, where this is just general background information. This is actually your topic. You're going to have one open-ended, which is highly descriptive, 2 scaled, and 2 multiple choice questions. So we'll start with the open-ended question. And by the way, with your demographic, you'll either have an open-ended or a multiple choice. Those are your only 2 options to create a demographic question. So your psychological question, for your open-ended, you want to make sure that you do not leave your audience with an easy way out. So you should be encouraging rich descriptions from them. Explain, explore, why or why not. So, this is a question like if I were to say, do you have pets? That leaves an easy way out. If I said that, what would you say back to me?
Of course.
Okay, but if I were to say, describe your first childhood pet, okay, that brings up a lot of memories, and you can probably, some of you could probably write a long time about your first childhood pet. So that's the type of thing that we're looking at. Describe your eating habits from the moment you get up to when you go to bed. What are some of the biggest barriers that you come across when staying concentrated on studying? Explain. explore. Why or why not? So if you know something right now, if something is coming to mind right now, go ahead and write it down.
So open-ended would be a short answer question.
An essay question. It would be
Well-
an essay.
This one's kind of extreme, but Elon, he specifically says you have to ask these people this question in the future, like, are you prepared to die?
That's
'Cause the
not
journey.
open-ended though.
Okay.
If it can be answered a yes or no, it's not considered open, right?
What was the scale for again?
We haven't talked about scale. We've just talked about this. But I think we're ready to move on to scales. And,
Well, what if,
not yet.
what if I reworded it to, are you prepared to advance the reaches of humanity and possibly fail?
That's still yes or no.
You want that as a scaled.
Okay.
And when I explain scaled, you'll understand why.
Okay, that would like show how much risk they're willing to take.
Yes. Yes. But keep thinking in that direction. The rest will come, even though the open-ended didn't come right now. Okay, let's move on to scaled questions. We're definitely ready for it. So a scaled question is the intensity that a person feels about a topic. These are the things that they agree with or they disagree with. Not at all important to very important. So you may be looking at their disposition with this as well. Not at all likely to very likely. Not at all like me to very like me. You know, so we're looking at things that are a scale, a range of feelings. And this is where just like I said over here, a lot of us, we don't feel really strongly about one thing or the other, but we kind of fall somewhere in between. And it may be neutral, but it may not be neutral. So your question should be very clear, not leading, and have at least 5 points to it, which means on a scale of 1 to 5. Or you could go 1 to 7 or 1 to 10. So those are our 3 choices.
So that would be like strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree.
You could just put strongly agree to strongly disagree at the end. And then you could just put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's it. So you don't have to worry about coming up with all the terminology for everything in between. Just have your first one and your last one clearly identified with the same type of words.
So this is a agree to disagree type question.
It is, or not at all important to very important. Not at all comfortable with risk, very comfortable with risk. Okay, so you're going to write 2 scaled questions, and I'd like one of them to match up with a multiple choice. Now, multiple choice questions, they aren't about how we feel about something, but they're about what we actually do. So these are behavioral, and you have the answers already written for you. So an example is, how many times a week do you exercise? 0 to 1, 2 to 3, 4 to 5, 6 or more. Okay, it's just a straightforward, what do you actually do about this thing that I'm asking about? How often do you look at, let's say, the news? Okay, and you can put it down per week or something like that. Or let's say, what news sources do you look at? You could list a number of different things, and that would be something that would be a check all that apply, and you'd allow them to have an option in case you can't think of everything.
And you want the multiple choice to be able to revert back to the scaled questions?
Should at least have one that goes back to the scale questions. So an example that where these 2 may be related would be health is important to me, strongly disagree to agree. Okay, well then how many days a week do you exercise? Okay, so there's a relationship between there. Just try to do that with one of them. And I'll explain later why that's gonna be important for you to see. How many of you have just a couple of questions written? I'd like you to turn to your neighbor and ask them to read your questions. You want to make sure that they're not biased, so they're not leading the class into a certain answer. So for example, tell me why you should be studying every night. Okay, that's assuming that you should be studying every night. So that's a biased question. So make sure that you've removed the bias so that even if they disagree with you, they have an opportunity and they feel comfortable in putting that out there. So we want to know how they feel about your topic. If there's something that doesn't make sense, like the wording is off, you have to tell your partner, because if it's off and they write that question into their survey, then they'll have a bad question.
My demographic.